The morning started like any other at Clarence House. Sergeant James Morrison had been serving the royal family for 12 years, and he thought he had seen everything. The tall, broad-shouldered guard was known for his attention to detail and unwavering loyalty. But nothing could have prepared him for what he would discover that Tuesday morning in March. Queen Camilla had left for her official duties early that day. She was scheduled to visit a children's hospital in London, followed by a ceremony at Westminster Abbey. The Queen Consort's schedule was packed, as usual, and she wouldn't return until late evening. This gave the household staff the perfect opportunity to complete some much-needed maintenance work in her private quarters. Morrison had been assigned to oversee the security during the renovation of Queen Camilla's dressing room. The room needed new electrical wiring, and the workers had to access areas behind the massive Victorian wardrobes that had been in the royal residence for decades. These weren't ordinary closets. They were enormous, handcrafted pieces of furniture that stood nearly 10 feet tall and stretched across entire walls. As the electricians worked, they discovered that one of the wardrobes was not properly secured to the wall. It had shifted slightly over the years, creating a dangerous situation. Morrison immediately called for additional help to safely move the heavy piece of furniture. What seemed like a routine safety measure would soon turn into something extraordinary. The maintenance team arrived within an hour, led by Thomas Fletcher, a veteran carpenter who had worked on royal properties for over 20 years. They carefully assessed the situation. Fletcher had seen his share of surprises in old royal buildings. Hidden passages, forgotten rooms, and lost artifacts were not uncommon in buildings with such rich histories. "We'll need to empty the wardrobe completely before we can move it safely," Fletcher explained to Morrison. "These old pieces are incredibly heavy, and we can't risk damaging anything inside or injuring anyone." Morrison nodded and began the careful process of removing Queen Camilla's belongings. Each item was handled with the utmost care and documented for security purposes. Gowns, coats, shoes, and accessories were systematically removed and placed on protective covers in the adjacent room. The guard had done this type of work before, so he knew the importance of treating every item as if it were priceless. As they worked deeper into the wardrobe, Morrison noticed something unusual. The back panel didn't look quite right. While the rest of the wardrobe was made of rich, dark mahogany, there was a section at the very back that appeared to be made of a different wood. It was slightly lighter in color and had a different grain pattern. "Fletcher, come take a look at this," Morrison called out. The carpenter approached and examined the back panel carefully. He ran his experienced hands along the wood, feeling for any irregularities. After a few moments, he looked up with a puzzled expression. "This is interesting," Fletcher said slowly. "This panel is definitely not original to the wardrobe. It's been added later, probably many years ago. And look here," he pointed to a small gap along one edge. "It's not even properly secured." Morrison felt his pulse quicken. In his 12 years of service, he had learned that anything unusual in royal residences needed to be investigated thoroughly. There were strict protocols for such discoveries, given the security implications and the historical significance of royal properties. "Should we open it?" Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. "We have to," Fletcher replied. "For safety reasons alone, we need to know what's behind there. But we'll do it carefully." Fletcher retrieved his tools and began to work on the panel. It didn't take long to realize that it had been designed to be removed, though not easily. The panel was held in place by a series of small wooden pegs that had been painted over multiple times throughout the years. As Fletcher worked, Morrison contacted his supervisor to report the discovery. Royal protocol required that any unusual findings be documented and reported immediately. Within minutes, additional security personnel were on their way to the scene. The panel came away more easily than expected. As Fletcher lifted it carefully, both men peered into the dark space behind. Morrison used his flashlight to illuminate the hidden compartment, and what they saw took their breath away. The space was larger than they had expected, extending deep into the wall itself. It appeared to be a purposely constructed hiding place, lined with cedar and containing several items wrapped in what looked like silk cloth. The air that escaped carried the faint scent of lavender and something else. something that reminded Morrison of old churches and ceremonial occasions. "My God," Fletcher whispered. "There's a lot in here." Morrison's training kicked in immediately. He knew better than to disturb anything without proper authorization and witnesses present. This could be anything from forgotten personal items to historically significant artifacts. Either way, it required careful handling. Within 30 minutes, the room was filled with additional personnel. Detective Inspector Sarah Collins from the Metropolitan Police's Art and Antiques Unit had been called in, along with Dr. Margaret Thornton, a historian specializing in royal collections. Both women had extensive experience with discoveries of this nature in royal properties. Dr. Thornton approached the hidden compartment with the reverence of someone who understood the potential historical significance of such a find. She had been involved in similar discoveries before, including the famous finding of medieval manuscripts in a hidden room at Windsor Castle just 5 years earlier. This type of concealment was common in royal residences, Dr. Thornton explained to the gathered group. During various periods of political upheaval, valuable items were often hidden for safekeeping. The construction of this hiding place suggests it's been here for many decades, possibly even longer. Detective Inspector Collins began the careful process of documenting everything before any items were disturbed. Photographs were taken from multiple angles, measurements were recorded, and detailed notes were made about the condition and position of each visible item. The largest bundle was clearly the most significant. Even wrapped in its protective silk covering, its outline suggested something ceremonial and important. The fabric appeared to be extremely old but well preserved, suggesting that whoever had hidden these items had taken great care to protect them from damage. Dr. Thornton was particularly intrigued by this bundle. "The way this has been wrapped and preserved suggests it contains something of great value and significance," she observed. "The silk itself appears to be of very high quality, possibly even royal silk." Morrison watched the proceedings with growing fascination. In all his years of service, he had never been present for a discovery of this magnitude. He could see the excitement in Dr. Thornton's eyes, though she was trying to maintain professional composure. As preparations were made to carefully remove the items from their hiding place, Morrison couldn't help but wonder about the story behind this discovery. Who had hidden these items? When? And most importantly, what were they? The careful removal process began with the smaller items first. Each piece was photographed in place, then carefully lifted and examined. There were several jewelry boxes, what appeared to be documents in protective cases, and other items wrapped in silk or stored in small containers. But everyone's attention kept returning to the large bundle. Its size and the care with which it had been preserved suggested it contained something truly extraordinary. Dr. Thornton estimated it had been hidden for at least 50 years, possibly much longer. As the afternoon progressed, word of the discovery began to spread through the appropriate channels. Senior palace officials were notified, and arrangements were made for experts from the royal collection to examine the findings. Morrison remained on duty throughout the entire process, ensuring security was maintained while allowing the experts to do their work. He had no idea that this routine maintenance task would lead to one of the most significant discoveries in recent royal history. The room buzzed with quiet excitement as each item was carefully catalogued and prepared for transport to a secure facility where they could be properly examined. But the large bundle remained, waiting for the right moment and the right expertise to reveal its secrets. As the day drew to a close, Dr. Thornton made a decision that would change everything. She had seen enough to suspect that the large bundle contained something of extraordinary historical significance. The way it had been wrapped, the quality of the protective materials, and its size all suggested one possibility that seemed almost too incredible to believe. "I think we need to contact Buckingham Palace immediately," she told Detective Inspector Collins in a hushed tone. "If my suspicions are correct, this discovery could be of national importance." Morrison overheard the conversation and felt a chill of anticipation. Whatever was hidden in that bundle was clearly something that had been carefully preserved and hidden for a very specific reason. The question was, what could be so important that someone felt the need to hide it so carefully and for so long? As the sun set over London, the hidden compartment in Queen Camilla's wardrobe had yielded its first secrets. But the biggest revelation was still to come. Wrapped carefully in silk and waiting to tell its story after decades of silence. The next morning brought a flurry of activity to Clarence House. Dr. Margaret Thornton had spent a sleepless night researching historical records and making discreet inquiries. Her suspicions about the large bundle had only grown stronger, and she had requested the presence of Lady Catherine Pemberton, the keeper of the royal ceremonial dress, to assist with the examination. Lady Pemberton arrived just after sunrise, carrying with her decades of experience with royal garments and ceremonial wear. She had overseen the care and preservation of some of the most important pieces in the royal collection, including items worn by monarchs dating back centuries. Her expertise would be crucial in determining the significance of whatever lay hidden in the silk wrapping. Sergeant Morrison was already at his post when the expert team assembled in the secure examination room that had been set up overnight. The mysterious bundle had been carefully transported from Queen Camilla's quarters, and now rested on a specially prepared conservation table. The room was climate-controlled and filled with the specialized equipment needed to properly examine and preserve historical artifacts. Before we proceed, Lady Pemberton addressed the small group. I want everyone to understand the gravity of what we might be dealing with. Based on Dr. Thornton's preliminary observations and the historical context of this hiding place, we could be looking at something that hasn't seen daylight for several decades. Detective Inspector Collins had arranged for additional documentation, including video recording of the unwrapping process. Whatever they discovered would need to be thoroughly documented for historical and legal purposes. The chain of custody and the circumstances of the discovery were already being carefully recorded for future reference. Dr. Thornton approached the table with white cotton gloves and specialized tools designed for handling delicate textiles. The silk wrapping itself was clearly very old, showing signs of age but remarkably well preserved. It had been wrapped with expert care, suggesting that whoever had hidden this item understood the importance of proper preservation. The wrapping technique is consistent with methods used for storing royal ceremonial garments, Lady Pemberton observed as Dr. Thornton began to carefully unfold the outer layer. This level of care suggests we're dealing with something of significant importance. As the first layer of silk came away, everyone in the room leaned forward with anticipation. Beneath the outer wrapping was another layer of protective material, this one appearing to be a specialized conservation cloth that was definitely from an earlier era. Morrison watched in fascination as the experts worked with methodical precision. Each layer of wrapping was photographed and carefully examined before being set aside. The process was painstakingly slow, but everyone understood the importance of doing it correctly. There's something here, Dr. Thornton announced as she reached what appeared to be the final layer of wrapping. Through the thin material, the outline of the hidden object was becoming clearer. It was definitely a garment of some kind, and a substantial one at that. Lady Pemberton moved closer, her trained eye already beginning to assess what they might be dealing with. The shape and size suggest a formal robe or gown, she said quietly. And given the care that's been taken in its preservation, it's almost certainly something ceremonial. As Dr. Thornton lifted away the final layer of protective wrapping, the room fell into complete silence. What lay before them was breathtaking in its beauty and obvious historical significance. The garment was made of the finest purple velvet, richly embroidered with gold thread in intricate patterns that spoke of royal craftsmanship. "My dear God," Lady Pemberton whispered, her professional composure cracking for just a moment. This is extraordinary." The robe was clearly a coronation garment, its design and construction immediately recognizable to Lady Pemberton's expert eye. But it wasn't just any coronation robe. As she examined the embroidery more closely, her suspicions about its identity began to crystallize into certainty. "Dr. Thornton," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I believe we need to contact Buckingham Palace immediately. This isn't just any historical garment. Based on the design, the materials, and the craftsmanship, I believe this is Queen Elizabeth II's original coronation robe." The room erupted in stunned silence. Morrison felt his heart racing as the implications of Lady Pemberton's statement sank in. The late Queen's coronation robe had been one of the most iconic garments in British history, worn during the most significant ceremony of her reign in 1953. Detective Inspector Collins immediately stepped forward. "Are you certain?" she asked, How can you be sure? Lady Pemberton pointed to specific details in the embroidery. These patterns are unique to the 1953 coronation. The floral emblems of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth realms are worked in exactly the way I've seen in historical photographs. The quality of the velvet, the specific shade of purple, the gold thread work, everything matches the historical records. Dr. Thornton was already examining other aspects of the robe. The construction techniques are consistent with 1952's royal tailoring, she confirmed. And look here. She pointed to a small area near the hem. There are what appear to be tiny repairs that were made with great skill. This garment has definitely been worn. The implications were staggering. If this truly was the late Queen's coronation robe, how had it come to be hidden in a wardrobe at Clarence House? The official records indicated that the coronation regalia and garments were carefully preserved in the royal collection. So, what was this robe doing here? Lady Pemberton continued her examination, noting every detail. The preservation is remarkable, she observed. Whoever hid this understood exactly how to protect it from deterioration. The hiding place provided the perfect environment. Cool, dry, and away from light. As word of the discovery spread through the appropriate channels, additional experts began arriving at Clarence House. Sir James Whitmore, the director of the Royal Collection, was among the first to arrive, bringing with him detailed records and photographs of the official coronation garments. When Sir James saw the robe, his reaction confirmed what everyone was beginning to believe. This is indeed a coronation robe from 1953, he said after a thorough examination. But here's what's puzzling. Our records show that the official coronation robe is safely housed in the royal collection. So what is this? Our records, the mystery was deepening rather than being solved. If the official coronation robe was accounted for, what was this remarkably similar garment? Dr. Thornton suggested a possibility that sent shockwaves through the assembled experts. What if this is a backup robe? She proposed. For an event as significant as a coronation, it would make sense to have a second, identical garment prepared in case something happened to the primary one. Sir James considered this possibility. It's not unheard of, he admitted. For major state occasions, backup garments are sometimes commissioned. But if that's the case, why was it hidden here, instead of being properly archived? Lady Pemberton had been examining the robe's construction more closely, and made another startling discovery. There's something else, she announced. This robe has definitely been worn, but look at these stress points and wear patterns. This wasn't worn just once for a ceremony. This garment has been worn multiple times. The implications of this discovery were profound. If the robe had been worn multiple times, it suggested a much more complex story than anyone had initially imagined. Who had worn it? When? And why had it been hidden away so carefully? Morrison listened to the expert discussions with growing amazement. What had started as a routine maintenance task was turning into one of the most significant historical discoveries in recent memory. But with each revelation came new questions that seemed to deepen the mystery rather than solve it. As the day progressed, more experts arrived to examine the robe and the other items that had been found in the hidden compartment. Each piece seemed to tell part of a larger story, but the full picture remained frustratingly elusive. Among the other items was a leather-bound journal wrapped in oiled cloth. Dr. Thornton carefully opened it to reveal pages of handwritten notes in elegant script. The entries were dated, starting from the early 1952s, and appeared to document fittings and alterations for various ceremonial garments. This could be the key to understanding what we've found, Dr. Thornton said as she carefully photographed each page. These notes might explain why the robe was hidden and provide context for its significance. As experts continued their examination, one thing became increasingly clear. This discovery was going to require extensive research and investigation to fully understand. The robe itself was undoubtedly authentic and historically significant, but its presence in the hidden compartment raised questions that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the coronation preparations of 953. Morrison remained at his post throughout the long day, watching history being uncovered one careful examination at a time. He couldn't help but wonder what Queen Camilla's reaction would be when she learned that her wardrobe had been hiding one of the most significant artifacts in recent British history. As evening approached, the initial examination was complete. But the investigation was just beginning. The robe and accompanying artifacts were carefully rewrapped and prepared for transport to a specialized conservation facility where they could undergo more detailed analysis. But already, the discovery was being hailed as one of the most important finds in royal history. The question that remained was simple yet profound. What was the true story behind this hidden treasure? And why had it been kept secret for so many years? 3 weeks after the discovery, Dr. Margaret Thornton sat in her office at the British Museum, surrounded by research materials that had taken her deep into the archives of royal history. The journal found with the Coronation Robe had proven to be the key that unlocked an extraordinary story, one that had been hidden for over 70 years. The handwriting in the journal belonged to Madame Gabrielle Dubois, a French seamstress who had been secretly commissioned by the royal household in 1952. Her notes revealed a story that no one could have imagined when Sergeant Morrison first discovered the hidden compartment. According to the journal entries, Madame Dubois had been asked to create an exact replica of Queen Elizabeth II's coronation robe. But this wasn't meant as a backup garment for the ceremony itself. The truth was far more personal and touching than anyone had suspected. The journal revealed that the replica had been commissioned by the Queen Mother, Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, as a deeply personal gift for her daughter. The Queen Mother had wanted to ensure that there would always be a perfect copy of the coronation robe that could be worn by future generations of royal women during private family celebrations and commemorative events. Dr. Thornton had spent weeks verifying the details in the journal with historical records. Everything checked out. Madame Dubois had indeed worked for the royal household, though her involvement in creating the replica robe had never been officially documented. The secrecy surrounding the project explained why there were no official records of the second robe's existence. The journal entries painted a picture of meticulous craftsmanship and deep emotional significance. Madame Dubois wrote extensively about the pressure she felt to create a perfect replica, knowing that it was intended as a mother's gift to her daughter during one of the most important periods of her life. The seamstress had documented every detail of the creation process, from sourcing the exact same type of purple velvet to recreating the intricate gold embroidery. She had even managed to obtain silk thread that was dyed to match the original colors perfectly. The project had taken her nearly 8 months to complete, but the most revealing entries came from late 1953, after the coronation ceremony. According to Madame Dubois, the Queen Mother had presented the replica robe to her daughter in a private ceremony at Windsor Castle. The gift had been deeply emotional for both women, representing not just the magnificence of the coronation but also the bond between mother and daughter during a time of tremendous change and responsibility. The journal revealed that the replica robe had indeed been worn multiple times over the years, exactly as Lady Pemberton had suspected from the wear patterns. Queen Elizabeth II had worn it during private family celebrations, including intimate gatherings to mark coronation anniversaries and other significant royal milestones. Dr. Thornton had been able to correlate some of the journal entries with known events. The robe had been worn during a private family dinner to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the coronation in 1963. It had also been worn during a small ceremony in 1977 to mark the Silver Jubilee, when the Queen had shown it to her own children as a way of connecting them to the history and tradition of the monarchy. The reason for the robe's eventual concealment was revealed in the journal's final entries, dated 1978. By this time, Madame Dubois was quite elderly and her handwriting had become more difficult to read, but her words carried deep emotion. She wrote that the Queen had decided to hide the replica robe away because it had become too precious and too emotionally significant to risk any damage or loss. The official coronation regalia was safely preserved in the royal collection, but this replica represented something more personal and intimate. The Queen had apparently felt that the robe should be preserved for future generations of royal women, hidden safely until the time was right for it to emerge again. According to the journal, the hiding place had been chosen specifically because Clarence House was expected to be used by future Queen's consort, making it a fitting location for the robe to wait for its next chapter. Dr. Thornton's research had uncovered one more crucial detail that explained everything. The wardrobe where the robe was hidden had originally been in Queen Elizabeth II's private quarters, when she was still Princess Elizabeth. Before her accession to the throne, when she became queen and moved to other residences, the wardrobe had eventually been relocated to Clarence House. The timing made perfect sense. The robe had been hidden sometime in the late 1970s, and the wardrobe had been moved to its current location in the 1980s, when Clarence House was being prepared for future use by other members of the royal family. The hidden compartment had traveled with the wardrobe, keeping its secrets safe for decades. Sergeant Morrison had been invited to attend the presentation of Dr. Thornton's findings to senior palace officials. As he sat in the elegant briefing room at Buckingham Palace, he marveled at how a routine maintenance task had led to this extraordinary revelation. Sir James Whitmore, the director of the Royal Collection, addressed the assembled group. Dr. Thornton's research has provided us with a remarkable story of family love and royal tradition, he said. This replica coronation robe represents something that goes beyond its historical significance. It's a testament to the personal bonds within the royal family, and the thoughtful way in which traditions are preserved and passed down. The decision about what to do with the robe had been made at the highest levels. Queen Camilla, when informed of the discovery in her wardrobe, had been deeply moved by the story. She had requested that the robe be properly conserved and preserved, and that its story be shared appropriately with the public. Lady Pemberton had overseen the conservation work personally. The robe was now in perfect condition, its colors restored to their original brilliance, and its gold embroidery gleaming as it had when Madame Dubois first completed her masterpiece 70 years earlier. Dr. Thornton had one final surprise to share with the group. Her research had uncovered a letter, tucked away in the royal archives, written by Queen Elizabeth II to the Queen Mother in 1978. In it, the Queen thanked her mother for the precious gift of love and expressed her hope that the replica robe would one day bring joy to future queens. The letter had concluded with words that brought tears to the eyes of everyone present. I have hidden our special robe where future queens will find it when the time is right. May it remind them, as it has reminded me, that the crown we wear is made heavier and lighter by the love of family. Morrison felt a deep sense of satisfaction knowing that his attention to detail and adherence to protocol had led to this discovery. The robe hadn't just been found. It had been found exactly when and where it was meant to be, in the quarters of a future queen who would appreciate its significance. The story of the hidden coronation robe was eventually shared with the public through a carefully planned exhibition at Buckingham Palace. Visitors were able to see both the original coronation robe and its replica side by side, learning about the remarkable story of family love and royal tradition that connected them. Queen Camilla had chosen to wear the replica robe during a private family celebration marking the anniversary of her late mother-in-law's passing. The gesture was seen as a beautiful tribute to Queen Elizabeth II's memory, and a continuation of the tradition of royal women supporting and honoring each other across the generations. Morrison had been personally thanked by Queen Camilla for his role in the discovery. He had been invited to attend the exhibition's opening, where he met many of the experts who had worked to uncover the robe's story. It was a moment of pride that would stay with him for the rest of his career. Dr. Thornton's research had been published in academic journals, and she had become something of a celebrity in the world of royal history. But for her, the most rewarding aspect of the discovery was the way it had revealed the deeply human side of royal life. The love between a mother and daughter, the thoughtfulness of preserving traditions, and the faith that future generations would appreciate and continue those traditions. The hidden compartment in the wardrobe had been carefully preserved as well, though it was now empty. It served as a reminder that royal residences often hold secrets and stories waiting to be discovered. Who knew what other mysteries might be hidden in the walls and wardrobes of palaces and royal homes across the country? As Morrison returned to his regular duties at Clarence House, he couldn't help but look at the ornate furniture and historic rooms with new eyes. Every piece might hold a story. Every hidden corner might conceal a treasure. His discovery had reminded everyone that history isn't just found in museums and archives. Sometimes it's hidden right under our noses, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. The story of the hidden coronation robe had become part of royal legend, a tale that would be told for generations to come. It spoke to the continuity of the monarchy, the importance of family traditions, and the way in which love and thoughtfulness can preserve the most precious things across decades. And in Queen Camilla's wardrobe, carefully restored and properly fitted, the space where the robe had been hidden for so long now held new garments and new memories. But the story of what had been discovered there would never be forgotten, a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are found in the most ordinary places, by people who are simply doing their jobs with care and attention to detail. The royal guard who broke open the wardrobe had uncovered more than just a hidden robe. He had revealed a story of love, tradition, and the enduring bonds that connect one generation of royalty to the next. It was a discovery that reminded everyone that beneath all the ceremony and tradition, the royal family was, at its heart, simply a family that treasured its most precious memories and worked to preserve them for the future.